Move out if you don't like it, my dad said after demanding rent, while my brother lived free because he was working on his future. So I moved out overnight and said, expect a future where you're homeless because I'm 25 male working as a diesel mechanic at one of the biggest shops in our city. Been doing this since I was 18, started as an apprentice and worked my way up. Not trying to flex, but I'm pretty darn good at what I do. Like, I'm the guy they call when the other mechanics can't figure stuff out. Those big Cummins engines, I can tear them down and rebuild them with my eyes closed at this point. But see, this isn't the life my parents wanted for me. Mom, 52 female, and Dad, 54 male, had this whole plan where I'd go to college, get some cushy office job, and be their perfect success story. When I told them I was going to trade school instead of college, you'd think I told them I was becoming a professional dumpster diver or something. The disappointment was real. Then there's my younger brother, Jake, 20 male. This kid, man, where do I even start? Picture the most stereotypical entitled Gen Z kid you can imagine, then multiply that by 10. That's Jake. While I'm out there busting my backside in 95-degree heat crawling under trucks and coming home looking like I took a bath in motor oil, this dude's living his best life playing video games and finding himself. The real fun started when I turned 21. I was making decent money by then, not Jeff Bezos money or anything, but solid enough to have my own place if I wanted. But my parents hit me with this whole family should stick together speech. Stupid me, I bought into it. That's when they dropped the bomb. I needed to start paying rent $800 a month to be exact. Now I'm not against paying rent. That's fair, right? I'm an adult making money, should contribute to the household. But here's where it gets messed up. Jake pays nothing. Zero, zilch, nada. Their excuse, he's still in school. Yeah, school meaning taking 2 classes at community college that they're paying for, which he's probably going to fail anyway because he spends more time on his PS5 than in class. Let me break down a typical day in our house because this stuff is important for context. I'm up at 5:30 a.m. at the shop by 7, working my backside off all day, dealing with crazy deadlines, angry customers, and engines that weigh more than my brother's car. Meanwhile, Jake rolls out of bed whenever he feels like it, maybe goes to his 1 class of the day, if he's feeling ambitious, then parks his backside on the couch for his daily gaming marathon. Mom makes his breakfast, his lunch, his dinner, does his laundry, cleans his room. Kid's living like he's got a personal butler service. Me, I'm lucky if there's any food left when I get home. Half the time I'm grabbing drive-thru on my way back from work because Mom didn't know when I'd be home, so she didn't make extra. The double standards were so obvious it was almost funny. If Jake leaves dishes in the sink, no problem. If I leave a coffee mug out, you're being disrespectful to the household. Jake wants new gaming equipment. They'll have it ordered before he finishes asking. I need new tools for work. You know my actual job. You make good money, you should pay for that yourself. But here's the real thing, and I didn't find this out until much later. They were using my rent money to pay the mortgage. Not like contributing to it, straight up using my $800 to make the whole darn payment. So basically, I was paying for the roof over all our heads while being treated like some unwanted house guest. I tried talking to them about it multiple times. Every conversation went the same way. Me, don't you think it's unfair that I'm paying rent while Jake lives here? Free? Mom, he's focusing on his education. Me, he's barely passing his classes. Dad, don't be jealous of your brother. Me, when I was his age, I was already working full-time. Mom, everyone's path is different. Dad, if you don't like it, you can always move out. And round we'd go. It was like talking to a wall, except the wall was actively gaslighting me. The crazy thing is, I put up with this for years. Kept telling myself it was temporary, that eventually they'd see how messed up it was that Jake would grow up and start contributing. Instead, it got worse. Way worse. And on top of that, my parents had this really interesting way of defining rent. According to them, that $800 only covered my bedroom and basic utilities. Everything else? That was extra. Want to use the washing machine? That'll be $30 extra per month for water and electricity usage. Want to park in the driveway instead of on the street? $50 monthly parking fee. Need to store your work tools in the garage? Another $40 for storage. I wish I was making this stuff up. Meanwhile, Jake's living like he's at a 5-star resort. Kid has the master bedroom. Yeah, you read that right. They gave him the bigger room when he turned 18 because he needs space for his gaming setup. He's got his own bathroom while I'm sharing one with my parents like I'm still in high school. And get this, he has a dedicated gaming room that used to be my dad's office. They literally moved all my dad's stuff to the dining room so Jake could have a proper streaming setup. One day, I'm doing an oil change on my truck in the driveway, because where else am I going to do basic maintenance? Jake comes out whining about how the noise is ruining his stream. My dad actually had the nerve to tell me I needed to do my vehicle maintenance at the shop instead, on my day off, using shop equipment I'm not supposed to use for personal vehicles, because it was disturbing precious Jake's Twitch stream that has like 12 followers. But the real kicker, the absolute cherry on top of this mess, they started itemizing my food consumption. No joke. Mom would go grocery shopping, and suddenly there's a list on the fridge with Mike's portion calculated down to the last darn slice of bread, a gallon of milk. That's $4.50 on my tab. Used 3 eggs for breakfast. $1.50. Want some of the dinner Mom cooked? Better cough up your share of the ingredients. Jake, though. This kid's eating like a king. Mom's making him special trips to Whole Foods for his dietary preferences. Translation. He watched some YouTuber talk about organic food and decided he's now a health guru. He's got his own snack cabinet that's literally labeled Jake's Do Not Touch. Meanwhile, I bought myself a pack of protein bars and found half of them gone the next day. When I brought it up, Mom said, "You should hide your food better if you don't want to share with family." Share with family. The irony was so thick you could spread it on toast. The financial drain wasn't even the worst part. It was the constant psychological warfare. Every family dinner, the ones I was allowed to join if I paid my portion, turned into a highlight reel of Jake's achievements. Jake might start streaming full-time. Translation, he's dropping out of community college. Jake's got such a good eye for investments. He bought some sketchy crypto after watching a TikTok about it. Jake's really finding his passion. He spent $300 of their money on a course about becoming an influencer. Me, I could literally rebuild an entire semi-engine, save a trucking company thousands in repairs, and get a commendation from my boss, and the most I'd get is, "That's nice, honey." Jake, tell us more about your new YouTube channel. The worst part was watching my skills and hard work get completely dismissed while they celebrated Jake's every minor achievement. I won Mechanic of the Month 3 times in a row at my shop. Crickets. Jake got 100 followers on Twitch. Mom made him a darn celebration dinner. One particular day really stands out. I just finished a massive job. We're talking 16-hour day complex transmission rebuild on a $200,000 truck that needed to be back on the road ASAP. Customer was so happy with my work, they sent a thank you letter to my boss and gave me a $500 tip. I came home actually excited to share some good news for once. Walk in the door and the house is in full celebration mode. Balloons, cake, the whole 9 yards. My first thought was maybe they'd finally noticed my hard work. Nope. Jake had just hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Mom had invited his streaming friends over, ordered catering with my rent money probably, and Dad even bought him a new microphone as a congratulations on your success gift. When I tried to share my news, Mom literally patted me on the head like a dog and said, "That's great, honey. Oh, could you transfer your rent early this month? We need to upgrade Jake's internet for better stream quality." I wish I could say this was the worst it got, but nah, this was just the warm-up. The real mess happened about 3 months ago. For context, I just dropped about $8,000 on a new professional tool set. If you're not in the industry, that might sound insane, but any mechanic will tell you that good tools are your lifeblood. We're talking Snap-on everything, ratchets, sockets, diagnostic equipment, the works. Had to finance part of it, but it was worth it because these tools were literally my future. I kept most of my tools at the shop, but I had this one toolbox at home for side jobs and personal projects. Nothing crazy expensive, but still probably worth around $2,000. Had it organized perfectly, every tool in its place, everything labeled. Yeah, I'm that guy. Even had some specialized diagnostic equipment I'd saved up for. This particular day, I'd pulled a double shift because we had a fleet of trucks that needed to be ready by morning. I'm talking 16 hours of non-stop work. My hands were shaking. I'd drunk enough coffee to kill a horse, and all I wanted was to shower and pass out. Pull up to the house around 11 p.m., and I see lights on in the garage. Weird since my parents' cars were gone, but whatever, I'm too tired to care. I just want my bed. Walk into the garage and my darn heart stops. My toolbox is on its side, tools everywhere, and there's Jake and his darn friends clearly drunk using my Pro Diagnostic Scanner as a darn doorstop for their beer pong setup. You know that moment in movies where everything goes quiet and the camera zooms in on the main character's face? That was me. I literally couldn't process what I was seeing at first. These drunk idiots had turned my garage into their personal party zone, and my tools, my livelihood, were their party props. "Yo, Mike," Jake slurs like this is totally normal. "We needed space for the table. Hope you don't mind, bro." Mind. My $1,200 diagnostic scanner is holding open the garage door, my socket sets are scattered across the floor like darn confetti, and my toolbox, my perfectly organized toolbox, looks like it got hit by a tornado. I lost it. Not like throwing punches lost it though, believe me, I wanted to, but that cold, deadly calm kind of anger, where your voice gets real quiet. What the heck did you do, Jake? This absolute waste of DNA just shrugs. Chill out, man. They're just tools. We'll put them back later. Just tools. I walk over to my scanner and sure enough, the screen's cracked. That's $1,000 right there minimum. Start checking my other tools. Sockets, missing ratchets, damaged precision instruments, just gone. And these drunk idiots are still trying to play beer pong around me like nothing's wrong. That's when one of Jake's friends, some douchebag in his Supreme hoodie, stumbles and spills beer all over my electrical testing equipment. Probably another $500 down the drain. I grab Jake by his shirt. Not my proudest moment, but forget it. Do you have any idea how much this stuff costs? He pushes my hand away, getting aggressive now. Get off me. Dad will buy you new ones if they're so precious. Stop being such a jerk about it. Dad will buy me new ones. Dad will buy me new ones. I start taking pictures of everything. The damage, the beer cans, the whole scene. Jake's starting to look nervous now. What are you doing documenting everything before I call the cops? That sobers him up real quick. You wouldn't dare. We're family. And that's when my parents walk in. Perfect timing, right? Mom takes one look at the scene and starts yelling at me for grabbing Jake. Dad's right behind her, already running his mouth about how I'm overreacting. They're just having some fun, Dad says, like I'm the jerk here. You can't expect them to not use the garage just because you keep your stuff in here. I show them the broken scanner. Mom's response. Well, maybe if you paid more rent, you could have a proper storage space for your things. That was it. That was the moment something in me just broke. Or maybe it finally got fixed. I don't know. I looked at them, really looked at them. My mom fussing over Jake like he's the victim. Jake smirking behind them because he knows he's untouchable. You're right, I said real quiet. I should get proper storage for my things. Went upstairs, grabbed my laptop, and started making calls. That night, after everyone went to bed, Jake passed out on the couch. Of course, I sat in my room and did something I should have done years ago. I made a spreadsheet. Yeah, I know, super exciting, right? But trust me, this spreadsheet became my weapon of mass destruction. I documented everything. Every single penny I'd paid them over the past 4 years. $800 monthly rent equals $38,500. Utility fees equals $4,800. Parking fees equals $2,400. Storage fees equals $1,920. Food contributions equals roughly $7,200. Various household expenses, they made me cover $5,000 plus grand. Total almost $60,000. $60,000. That's not even counting all the tools Jake and his friends destroyed. While I'm putting these numbers together, I get this text from Jake. Hey bro, sorry about the tools and stuff. Dad says he'll give you $200 to replace anything that broke. We good $200 for thousands in damaged professional equipment. I didn't even respond. Instead, I started making calls. First to my buddy Chris, who works in real estate. Turns out he had a client with a garage apartment for rent. Then to my bank to check my savings. Thank God I'd been putting money aside despite my parents bleeding me dry. Finally to my boss to ask about picking up some extra shifts. But here's where it gets interesting. Remember how I mentioned I've been paying their mortgage without knowing it? Well, I did some digging. Turns out my $800 rent was exactly the amount of their monthly mortgage payment. Not close to it exactly it. They hadn't been contributing a single penny to the mortgage in 4 years. So I came up with a plan. A beautiful karma-filled plan. First step, I signed the lease on that garage apartment. It was small, but it had a secure space for my tools and no entitled little brothers using my stuff as party decorations. Put down the deposit that same night. Second step, I started moving my stuff out quietly. Not everything at once, I'm not an amateur. Just a few things each day when nobody was home. The important stuff went first. What was left of my tools? Important documents, irreplaceable items. Nobody noticed because, well, nobody ever paid attention to my stuff anyway. Third step, I documented the tool damage meticulously. Took photos, videos, got written statements from 2 of Jake's friends who were actually decent enough to feel bad about what happened. Made copies of everything and stored them in 3 different places. This would come in handy later, trust me. Fourth step, I went to the bank and opened a new account at a completely different bank. Started redirecting my paychecks there, canceled all the automatic payments to my parents' accounts. But the master stroke, I waited. See, I knew exactly when their mortgage was due the first of every month. And I knew they hadn't saved a penny, because why would they? They had their reliable cash cow living upstairs. The whole time I'm doing this, life went on as normal. I kept going to work, kept nodding along at dinner when they praised Jake's latest business idea. He was now convinced he could become a cryptocurrency millionaire, kept acting like everything was fine. Mom did try to talk to me about the tool incident once. She came to my room with that fake concerned look she'd perfected over the years. "Honey, I know you're upset about your tools, but Jake feels really bad about it. Maybe if you hadn't left them in the garage." I just nodded and said, "You're right, Mom. I should find a better place to keep my things." She looked so relieved, probably thought I was finally understanding their side of things. Little did she know I was already 3 steps into my exit strategy. The best part, Jake kept making it easier for me to justify what I was about to do. Every day there was some new nonsense. He borrowed my car without asking, came back with an empty tank, had his friends over again. He even had the nerve to ask me to co-sign for a loan so he could invest in his streaming career. Meanwhile, I'm watching my parents enable everything. Dad bought him a new gaming chair because his back was hurting from streaming too long. Mom was now doing his laundry and folding it and putting it away because he was too busy with content creation. All while I'm still getting bills for my share of utilities and being told I need to contribute more to the household. But here's the thing about people who think they're untouchable. They never see the fall coming. And boy, was this going to be a long fall. I had my move-out date circled on my calendar, July 31st. Why that date? Because their mortgage was due the next day, and August was about to become a very, very interesting month for my dear family. July 31st, I'd taken the day off work first time in months and made sure to wake up early, like 5 a.m. early. Why? Because I wanted to be gone before they could try to stop me or guilt trip me into staying. I'd seen enough Reddit stories to know how these things usually go down. My new place was already set up. I'd been secretly moving stuff over for weeks. All that was left was my bed, my work clothes, and a few boxes of random stuff. I'd rented a small U-Haul the night before and parked it around the corner where they couldn't see it. The best part, I'd scheduled my move for the exact day I knew would hurt them the most. See, their mortgage was due on the 1st, and I knew for a fact they didn't have the money. Out because I'd accidentally seen my mom's online banking screen when she was asking me to loan her money for Jake's new streaming microphone last week. Their account had less than $1,000 in it. The plan was simple: get my stuff out, leave my key, and ghost them until the inevitable meltdown. But you know what they say about best laid plans. I'm quietly carrying out my last box when Jake stumbles out of his room. My brother, ladies and gentlemen, finally awake before noon only because he'd been up all night streaming. He looks at me, looks at the box, and his hungover brain takes a full minute to process what he's seeing. "The heck are you doing?" I just kept walking, didn't even look at him. That's when he noticed my nearly empty room through the open door. "Mom, Dad Mike's trying to leave." "Here we go." I heard the thundering footsteps as my parents rushed upstairs. My dad still in his bathrobe, face getting red already. Mom right behind him, already starting with the waterworks. What is the meaning of this? Dad's using his authority voice, the same one that used to scare me when I was a kid. Not anymore. I sat down my box calmly. "I'm moving out." "Like heck you are. You can't just leave. What about your responsibilities to this family?" I pulled out my phone, opened my spreadsheet. "You mean these responsibilities?" Started reading out the numbers. Every payment, every fee, every dollar they'd squeezed out of me while letting Jake live like a prince. Mom's face went from fake tears to real panic as the numbers kept going. "That's $60,000 over 4 years," I finished. "Oh, and here's the best part. I know that's been going to the mortgage that's due tomorrow." Dad's face went from red to white so fast I thought he might pass out. Mom grabbed the wall for support. Jake just stood there, mouth open like a fish. You can't do this to us," Mom whispered. "Actually, I can, and I am. But wait, there's more." I pulled out a manila envelope. "This is all the documentation of the tools Jake and his friends destroyed. About $3,500 worth of professional equipment. I'll be filing a small claims court case next week unless I'm reimbursed in full." Jake started sputtering. But you're my brother. You can't sue me." "Watch me." Dad tried to step in front of the door. "You're not leaving until we sort this out. I'm 6'2" and work with heavy machinery all day. Dad's 5'10" and hasn't seen a gym since the 90s. I just looked at him until he moved. "The rent you've been charging me, that's more than my new place costs. The utility fees, stuff you made up to fund Jake's lifestyle. The storage fees for my tools. Look how well that turned out. I picked up my box again. I've got all the documentation, all the payments, all the texts where you demanded money, every receipt, every bank statement. If you try to cause problems, it all goes to a lawyer. Mom was full on crying now. Please, the mortgage. We don't have. Not my problem anymore. Maybe Jake can start paying rent. Oh wait, that would require him to actually have a job. Jake lunged at me. I sidestepped and he crashed into the wall. Real tough guy when he's not surrounded by his drinking buddies. By the way, I added heading down the stairs, I've already changed my direct deposit information at work and closed our joint account. Good luck with the mortgage tomorrow. I heard Mom collapse onto the floor, sobbing. Dad was yelling something about family duty and responsibilities. Jake was still threatening me, but now from a safe distance. I loaded my last box, got in the U-Haul, and drove to my new place. Total silence from them for about 6 hours. Then the texts started. Oh boy, did they start. Let me paint you a picture of how that first day went down hour by hour. I watched their messages evolve from anger to panic to straight up desperation. It was like watching the 5 stages of grief, except nobody died, just their financial stability. First wave came from Dad, all righteous anger. 8:15 a.m. Get back here right now. 8:20 a.m. You're making a huge mistake. 8:45 a.m. No son of mine acts this way. 9 a.m. Answer your phone. Jake showing his usual maturity. 12:15 p.m. You're dead when I find you. 12:20 p.m. Hope you're happy breaking up the family. I didn't respond to any of them. Just kept screenshots of everything for my records. But around 3 p.m., that's when reality started hitting them. The mortgage payment was due the next day, and they finally checked their bank account. Even Jake started realizing things were serious. 7 p.m. Come on, man, don't do this. 7:30 p.m. I'll pay you back for the tools. 8 p.m. Mom and Dad are freaking out. 8:30 p.m. This isn't funny anymore. I spent that evening in my new apartment enjoying the peace and quiet, watching their messages roll in while eating takeout on my couch that nobody else had the right to use. The next day, August 1st, was when stuff really hit the fan. See, not only did they miss the mortgage payment, but that was just the beginning. Remember all those subscriptions and services they'd been paying for with my rent money? Jake's premium internet for streaming his gaming subscriptions, Mom's fancy gym membership, Dad's golf club, dues their Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and whatever else. All of it started bouncing. Their cards got declined everywhere. Jake's Twitch stream went down mid-game because they couldn't pay the internet bill. You should have seen his chat explode, all 15 viewers very confused. Then the real panic set in. Mom called me crying about how the mortgage company was sending notices. Dad left voicemails about fixing this as a family. Jake's messages got increasingly desperate as his streaming setup started falling apart piece by piece. But here's the best part. They started turning on each other. Through my cousin, the only family member I still talk to, I heard about the epic fights. Dad blaming Mom for not saving money. Mom blaming Dad for spoiling Jake. Jake blaming them for not having a backup plan. Everyone blaming me for being selfish. The cherry on top, Jake had to get a real job. Like an actual job at the local Walmart. Day one, he had to help carry groceries to cars in the summer heat. Posted on his Instagram about how hard manual labor is. I nearly pulled a muscle trying not to comment. Welcome to the real world. By the end of the first week, they'd tried everything. Dad came to my workplace, security escorted him out. Mom tried to guilt my boss into giving her my new address. He laughed and said no. Jake's friends messaged me offering to pay for the tools. Too little, too late. They even sent our old pastor to talk some sense into me. But the real karma, that was just getting started. Because what they didn't know was that missing one mortgage payment was about to trigger a domino effect that would change their lives forever. Their comfortable little world where Jake was king and I was the ATM that was about to come crashing down hard. See, my parents had been living way beyond their means for years, using my rent money to maintain their lifestyle and fund Jake's dreams of internet stardom. Without my monthly $800, their entire budget went up in flames. First, the mortgage company started calling, then the credit card companies, then the utilities. Turns out they'd been paying everything on a razor-thin margin, and one missed payment was all it took to send everything tumbling down. But let me break down how it all played out, because each family member's reaction was priceless. Let's start with Jake. My precious brother's journey from future Twitch star to reality was a thing of beauty. Week 1 at Walmart, he got written up for being on his phone during shifts. Week 2, he had a meltdown because a customer disrespected him by asking him to help load groceries in the rain. By week 3, he was begging his streaming followers for donations. He He made $247. The internet getting cut off was the final nail in his influencer career coffin. His last stream was him literally crying about how unfair life is while the video quality kept dropping until it finally went black. His 12 viewers were very supportive though. They spammed F in the chat. Mom's breakdown was more gradual. First, she had to cancel her fancy gym membership. Then her weekly hair appointments. Then her essential spa treatments. She tried getting a job for the first time in 15 years. Turns out professional enabler isn't an in-demand skill on LinkedIn. She ended up working at the same Walmart as Jake, different shift. The irony of them both wearing those blue vests after years of looking down on retail workers' chef's kiss. Dad's ego took the biggest hit. He'd always played the role of successful provider, even though I was the one actually providing. When he had to sell his golf clubs to make a partial mortgage payment, something in him just broke. His country club buddies stopped inviting him to their weekly games. Turns out, friendship only goes as far as your wallet in those circles. Last week, they finally had to put the house up for sale. They're moving into a 2-bedroom apartment next month, all 3 of them. Jake's furious because he has to share a room with Dad. Mom's devastated because the apartment doesn't have a proper entertaining space for her book club that she can't afford to buy books for anyway. The real cherry on top, I got promoted at work. Lead mechanic position, significant pay raise, company truck. When word got back to them, they tried reaching out again with a business proposition. Apparently, they wanted to invest in my success by moving in with me so we could pool our resources as a family. I replied with a screenshot of their mortgage statements showing how they'd exploited me for years and told them to lose my number. So here I am, sitting in my paid-for apartment, all my bills up to date, my tools safely stored in my own garage, watching my family learn some very expensive lessons about consequences. Jake's still at Walmart now in a 3-month competition with Mom for Employee of the Month. Neither has won yet. Dad's delivering pizzas at night, and I'm getting ready to take a 2-week vacation with the money I've saved since stopping my family contributions. Life's funny sometimes. For years, they treated me like an ATM, a servant, a backup plan. Now they're learning the hard way that you can't treat people like garbage and expect them to keep funding your lifestyle. To everyone who followed this saga, thanks for the support. Edit, since people are asking about the tools, yes, I did file in small claims court. Hearings next month. I have all the documentation, photos, and even statements from Jake's friends. Should be interesting. Edit 2, holy heck, this really blew up. Thanks for all the awards, and no, I won't help them get back on their feet. They can walk on their own for once. Final update, just heard from my cousin they're having a family meeting to discuss pooling resources to survive in the apartment. Apparently, they're expecting Jake to contribute 1/3 of the rent. The same Jake who called in sick to Walmart 3 times last week because streaming is his real job. Good luck with that.